We know our customers can't afford to lose business while we're upgrading their technology. So we have to work very closely with them to understand their schedule. Where can we be when? A lot of times it's a sacrifice of our technicians working odd hours, working nights instead of days. Sometimes they are flip flopping their schedules back and forth during the same week just to make sure that the customer is getting taken care of and getting the service on the timeline and schedule that they have and need. On the low voltage install side, we're in a tricky spot where we can be working alongside a lot of other trades. So we've got general contractors organizing, there's the concrete pour, there's the electrical side. There's so many different aspects that are all trying to come together in those last 2 weeks to make sure they're showing up and representing and doing the best that they can to get the store up and running on time. And a lot of times for us, that means pivoting hours. It means getting more installers on site. It's extra checks and balances just to make sure that we're not dropping the ball or running into issues where we can't be on the floor because they just poured new concrete, but we have to be running the cabling and the ceiling. So there's a lot of tactical decisions that have to be made, whether it's swapping schedules from day to night, whether it's bringing in more resources. It's really important for us to learn from experiences in the past to say, make sure we have the right people on site representing Telaid, ensuring the customer has that positive experience and we don't cause any delays. We're still doing the install, but we're also buttoning up those last pieces. So we're making sure that cameras are installed, that they're focused on the right sections of the store. We're making sure that fire alarm systems are correctly connected and testing and working with the local facilities and local fire stations. We're making sure that in the ceiling, if you look up in the ceiling, we wanna make sure there's a clean install. We used our J-hooks. We don't have any service loops that are hanging down or could be falling out of the ceiling. So it's those little details that make such a difference to the customer when they're shopping through the store. It's really all of just the little loose ends that we're tying up so that it looks like a fully wrapped package at the end and not like we just threw our cables in the ceiling to get the store up and running and we're gonna go back. Really the difference between one that's successful from the get-go versus one where we're constantly returning or learning from ourselves over and over again is trusting the installer and the partner. It's the training that we're doing on the back end to make sure that the technicians who are going to site really understand the technology that we're installing and how all of the nuances and details really make up the bigger picture. So it's not just taking somebody who's run a cable before and saying, "Here, go do this." We invest a lot of time in making sure that our teams understand the why and the bigger picture, how the technology is gonna be actually deployed, not just how it's installed. So what's the end goal? Why does the camera have to be positioned a certain way? Why does this sensor have to be hung at a certain height? The teams that take the time to understand all of those nuances are the ones who are continuously giving us the best installs, and we're making sure that the customer is getting what they need and are expecting out of those technologies, saving them money on loss and shrinkage. It's, empowering the consumer to always have what they're looking for, what they need when they're at the store because the technology is working the way that it should. Really, it's a lot of internal coordination. It's making sure that the right materials are there, that we've got the permits in place. There's so many supporting teams that you don't even think about, whether it's ordering heavy equipment, whether it's configuring a device in our local solutions center. All of those things have to fall perfectly in place for us to be on site, on time, and get the job done the right way the first time that we go to install. So every single one of those things does have to go right before we can even step foot on site and install a piece of technology successfully the first time. Creating and implementing a standard is incredibly important to Telaid, and there's a few different ways that we try to make sure no matter where you are, you're having the same experience and the same install. So Telaid is very big on creating our own certification programs where we work directly with the technicians who will be installing the technology to certify them and say, you understand this technology, you understand the customer that you're installing the technology for, and all of the different little, niche aspects. So training, we tend to partner new technicians up with experienced technicians on almost any install for the first 2 or 3 sites, just to make sure that they understand and are being trained the correct way instead of leaving them to their own devices to figure out with an install guide or a, phone tech support. We really value having the technicians work with experienced technicians to get that firsthand on the job training. We also have a pretty extensive quality control program, so we'll have quality control technicians who not only train the installers, but also will perform audits throughout, proactively call out any misalignments, anything that might look like it could use some tightening up or reevaluation. And we will proactively go to the customer and make things right. If we see an area of opportunity where we could have done better, we'll then take that and work with the technicians installing to, lessons learned. This is what we've seen. This is how we've corrected it. And this is what our expectations going forward look like. That's something we do a lot, and I think it's something Tele does well, where we know our customers can't afford to lose business while we're upgrading their technology. So we have to work very closely with them to understand their schedule. Where can we be when? A lot of times it's a sacrifice of our technicians working odd hours, working nights instead of days. Sometimes they are flip-flopping their schedules back and forth during the same week just to make sure that the customers getting taken care of and getting the service on the timeline and schedule that they have and need. So working nights is definitely something that we do often. We have very clear standards about what our expectation is as far as disrupting a customer's, day-to-day business. So we leave the place better than we found it. There's not going to be boxes. You're not going to see our scissor lifts. We're going to keep things as neat and tidy as possible during the day while we're working, or if we're not working, once we leave site for the day. It's important to us that we aren't impacting, the aisles. They're not full of boxes, and the natural flow of the store isn't impacted by the work we're doing or the installs. There's really a value in having a standard and having the same experience no matter what store you're at. And that's, for us, it starts before the install and it goes well past the install. So truly, there's just so much benefit in having somebody who's there with you, picking out the right piece of equipment at the very beginning, to being the person who knows how to service it when things aren't, something might go down in the future. And having the same person who picked out that technology now knows how to fix it for you. So you're not down for a day, you're down for maybe an hour. Having a nationwide presence really positions Telaid in a good place like that, where we wanna make sure our customers are whole right away. We don't want to have them losing money for shrinkage, for loss preventions, for anything like that. We wanna make it right as quickly as possible as soon as we find out there's a problem, and that involves having the same technicians who installed the technology working on it throughout its life cycle until it's time for the next upgrade.